In this video, I'm going to condense my hundreds of hours of analysis and interviews with Master, Grandmaster and Challenger players to make the official League of Legends off-meta tier list. We are going to start with the absolute worst builds, but throughout the video the picks will get better and better until we crown the ultimate off-meta pick, the one that is easy to learn and guaranteed to get you LP. So what is the worst off-meta pick we have ever covered? That crown goes to AP Gangplank. This pick is super hard to learn, and by the time you've mastered it, you probably should have just gone AD, since Riot buffed it recently and it's actually pretty good now. This pick has good AP damage, but quite simply it's not as good as AD, which makes it even more impressive that someone managed to hit Grandmaster with it. Every pick on this list is actually viable with evidence, unlike most League of Legends YouTubers. Let's just move all of this into its own tier. These may all be clickbait, but one thing that isn't is our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Nvidia and Alienware, and their new 360Hz 25-inch Alienware gaming monitor featuring Nvidia Reflex. Alienware sent me this top-of-the-line monitor built for competitive gaming. In fact, it was the official monitor of the League of Legends World Championship. Literally the best League of Legends players in the world used this monitor. The World Finals was won by EDG while using this monitor, and its 1 millisecond GTG response time. But most importantly, this monitor has Nvidia Reflex built in. Nvidia Reflex is all about minimizing the response time between your peripheral and the game. So when you're playing an FPS game, Reflex's goal is getting the time you click your mouse to the time the bullet leaves your gun as close as possible for maximum responsiveness. Here you can see how much it reduces the input time for different games. By enabling the Nvidia Reflex setting inside the game and playing on 360Hz on this monitor, it cuts down that delay by a ton. These are fractions of a second, and in competitive games, matches are won or lost depending on these fractions of a second. If you want to play like the best, please check out the Alienware 25 360Hz monitor at the link in the description below. The D tier picks. These are the champions that players love, but Riot really seem to hate. Shyvana top lane. My video was called AFK Shyvana for a reason. If she walks up to the enemy top laner in lane, she's going to lose. Her laning really needs some help. But then, in late game, well, she's just okay. Riot, please help this champion. Wukong support. Such a great disruption support, with mind games, and he's a monkey. Then, Riot decided to nerf Stridebreaker, his main item. Oh sorry, I mean Riot decided to remove Stridebreaker from the game because no champion should ever buy it. Divine Sunderer is always better. So in support he's struggling. Maokai mid. A great frontliner for your team, but that's pretty much the only thing you get. In solo queue, your champion has to at least do some damage to be self-sufficient. Maokai is a bit of an outdated champion, so as a tank he doesn't really have any damage. Tank Nidalee top. It looks super fun and like he's doing a lot. Then you take a look at the enemy health bar, and it hasn't even moved. The laning is really hard and you're not really rewarded, even though you are really good at diving in fights. Again, these are all viable, just not OP. C tier. These are the champions that are starting to get pretty good, but your teammates will believe you're doing absolutely nothing. Orianna support is a great example. She's got speed ups, shielding, and a huge CC ultimate, but if your AD carry dies once in lane, it will always be your fault. That's the problem with some of these off meta. Quinn support is the same, incredible speed and engages, but if your AD carry messes up once, it's /all report Quinn time. The problem is not these champions. The issue is they lack the overloaded support kits of a Nautilus or a Leona who can 1v1 the enemy AD carry. These picks aren't even weak. Meta supports are just too strong. Tank Veigar support is the same thing. He's really useful, but he's a tank so it looks like he's not doing much. Although now he can take Glacial Augment. Look at how all Veigar does in this fight is press one ability, the cage, and the slow field covers this whole area, trapping 3 people and setting up a wombo combo for his team to ace the enemies. AD Akali, Kayn top, Kha'Zix mid, Yi mid, and Nasus jungle. I would group all of these into the same category. Bad early game, good scaling, and good team fights. You aren't going to win lane on any of these picks, which sucks in solo queue, but if you do get to 20 minutes, you stand a great chance of getting LP. At least Nasus jungle can just farm camp, so he's much safer. AP Rengar is in this tier. He has great AoE one-shots, and is an even safer pick than AD Rengar, since he's always using his Empower W. The main issue is the experience required to pull this off, and that in fights he can't really kill bruisers, which isn't ideal when you're playing top lane, because you're gonna see a lot of them. Teemo jungle. Manko, the NA Challenger player, is a madman with years of practice on this pick. The best thing Teemo jungle can do is invade the enemy jungle to one-shot enemies. But if you want to do this, I have some much better picks later on. Tank Vi jungle. Unfortunately, Vi got nerfed because of Arcane. The champion's still great, although Sunderer is probably better in most elos so you can actually kill people yourself. Akshan jungle. Super OP invisible ganks with great damage. The main issue is his rope swing and how hard it is to use. Even when I play it in solo queue, queue, my teammates can't stop talking about how I should go find a rope. Kled mid and Crit Aatrox jungle are both picks that require a lot of skill on a complex champion, but you are heavily rewarded if you can do it. These roles are much safer for the champion, as well as being very surprising for enemies, and having the ability to solo carry games. The first of our Yuumi bot lane combos is going here in C tier. Qiyana with Yuumi. Picking anything bot lane with Yuumi is generally pretty good, but Qiyana is an assassin who loves early laning, but this is when Yuumi is the weakest. They still manage some insane 2v2 kills, and have a great mid game, but we have a much better combo coming up. This is where the off meta starts to get really good. B tier is for the high risk, high reward champions that can either ruin the game or 1v9 it. Aphelios top is the perfect place to start. Insane poke damage and lane control, which leads to early solo kills. When it works fast, immediately getting fed. Adding Gale Force into Snowball makes this a great solo queue pick, but if you die to a gank, then say goodbye to your LP. Draven and Jhin top are exactly the same, except Draven's really aggressive getting a kill at level 2, and Jhin prefers to have fun with traps. Lethality Urgot, another crazy high damage top lane pick. It's shocking for enemies to play against. The only reason he's this low on the list is how hard he is to teamfight with. You're really good at one-shotting people, but you're too squishy to frontline, and your team will hate you if you die even once. Lilia top is very similar. Super good early laning with good escapes and wave clear. Then you get to teamfights, and you realise why Bambi ended the way it did. This champion is so squishy and high risk. She needs help to win fights. AP Sejuani is high up in the tier list because her one-shots against squishy mids and AD carries are some of the best in the game. Even her laning is really good, with unexpected high damage trades. But the big problem, if you miss your ultimate, prepare to be useless until it's back up. Ahri support and Anivia support are good to group together. They're AP supports that can get a kill if they land just one ability. They're CC. Ahri is the super mobile one, dashing over walls to make plays no other champion can. Anivia is the awful one for AD carries to play against, being trapped with an undodgeable wall with no escape. But they are definitely not the best supports on this list. If instead you want a good AD carry, Tank Kog'Maw is still your go-to, with the Wit's End build still working. This challenger Tank Kog'Maw player discovered how OP Wit's End is months before pro players, and it has become a staple item in the meta. Tank Kog'Maw is great because it avoids the issue of actually having to play an AD carry in solo queue. No one wants to do that. Poppy Jungle, another pick we made a video on, and then it became meta in pro play, even played at Worlds. I think NA really needs to start watching HappyChimeNoises if they ever want to win Worlds. Bjergsen, please respond to my DMs. Rek'Sai top is a great solo killing top laner, who's only gotten better after the TP changes, much preferring to take Ignite and get solo kills in lane, with a really safe ultimate. Taric top lane from Dangerous Boy Addy goes here. This pick is crazy, it has surprising solo kills early on, as well as strong roams. But Taric is super immobile, so you have to be incredibly good at this strategy to not just run it down. If you're not, then you might just cause someone to leave a YouTube comment on my video about you losing the game. Soraka mid, a great safe, supportive mid pick. It helps your whole team, and it's so easy anyone can play it. If you want to play real League of Legends and have games that last longer than 20 minutes, Soraka mid is a great pick to get you there. Xin Zhao mid is the same thing, really easy to pick up and surprisingly effective. Think of him as an AD version of Annie. The mechanics are so simple you can focus on doing other stuff, like CSing, controlling the wave, or going for ganks, and you still have the damage to solo kill the enemy mid. Illaoi mid is in B tier, but it's now gaining a ton of popularity in high elo, likely to be seen in a pro league very soon. She has incredible poke in lane, as well as great wave clear actually on her Q, which people don't expect. Then later on, she can do lots of 1 vs 2 on 1v3 plays, becoming really hard to deal with. A tier, these are some of the best picks not only for off meta, but also in the whole game. Some of them are shockingly good, and actually became meta after we made the video, like Lee Sin mid. We made the video and then it became one of the best mid laners in pro play. The player from our video noticed that Lee Sin got buffed, and immediately took it to mid lane. Pro players didn't even notice, and it took a long time for them to adapt. In Season 12, this build is still great. Gore Drinker got nerfed, which was bad for the pro play build, but our solo queue Lee Sin goes full damage to one-shot enemies, so is still as good as ever. Honestly, Lee Sin mid has a very easy laning phase, where you can just spam E and not interact with the enemy, then later on get some really fast combos to one-shot people. You're likely to end the game with a ton of kills if you can pull it off. Tryndamere mid, another video we made, which then became meta at Worlds, and is still meta in pro play in Season 12, even picked by Faker. Tryndamere is still one of the most annoying champions in the game, especially when you play against a high elo one, and with all of the bonus resources he gets in mid lane, this is a great pick. Vayne and Gragas mid, more picks that have been played in pro play since the video. Vayne is a great 1v1er mid with insane scaling. Gragas as well has an easy laning phase since he has so much healing on his abilities, leading into great one-shots, a great ult for utility, and just overall a super fun fun champ that I'd highly recommend. Rengar Ivern duo bot lane goes in this tier. This combo will not let the enemy bot lane win lane. This is a dominating lane. Even the Ivern bushes force enemies to run away and miss CS. After laning phase, you have a huge amount of survivability for teamfights, even getting Daisy to distract the backline. Singed Yuumi bot lane and Pyke Talia go here as well. Singed Yuumi is the best Yuumi combo bot lane we've seen in high elo. Yuumi handles laning phase by herself, then Singed takes over responsibility mid-game, becoming an unkillable speed racer in fights. On the other hand, Pyke Talia power spike during laning phase, with Pyke Hook being easy setup for Talia's high damage combo. Roaming around the map together, they keep snowballing kill after kill, which is always the best way to win in solo queue. Sion and Mordekaiser jungle, in my opinion, some of the best junglers for solo queue, as well as some of the easiest to gank with. Their jungle clear is so simple. Sion gets free health from camps. Mordekaiser has his AoE damage passive that just kills the camps. Their ganks are perfect CC setup, with Mordekaiser pretty much guaranteeing a kill every time he ults. And their scaling is good as well, being high damage frontlines for their team. I would compare them to Hecarim, who's one of the best meta junglers right now. The OP supports start here. Lissandra support with her easy gank setup, having a point and click ult that should always end in a kill on any enemy even if they're fed. Shaco support, the king of annoying and baiting enemies. This pick is super underrated. He got nerfed after our video which exposed how strong it was, but then all of the items he builds got buffed. So now, buying Everfrost first, Shaco can Q stealth onto an enemy carry and instantly Everfrost CC them to set up a kill for his team. This build has so much damage in Season 12. Intinkatha support, another high damage carry support that always tops the damage chart. It's so hard to deal with this champion. I would say that for most viewers watching, no matter what champion you pick, if you get a good Katha support on the enemy team, you would lose. This pick is very unfair. Kennen mid is another one to mention. It's not a super off-meta pick, but he's very unpopular in mid lane. It doesn't really make sense why, because he's got a great laning phase where he can get solo kills, and then he can 1v5 teamfights with his big ult. He takes a few games to learn how the stun works, but after that he's super consistent. S tier. These are the top 5, the picks that beat the meta and that I would highly recommend for climbing. First is Elise mid, a very unexpected one for sure, but that's why it's so good. Elise has great early game since she's a ganking jungler, so when she's playing mid she has a ton of kill setup. She can straight up dive enemies under their mid tower, escaping and avoiding all damage with her repel. Elise mid is what Zed wishes he could be, a one-shotting snowballing assassin with an easy to use ability to dodge damage, and having CC so she can roam and set up more kills. Elise even has healing in lane from her spider form. Her abilities in spider form cost no mana but still do a ton of damage, and you get free attack speed which is great for taking tower. You'll always end up with some turret plates. Our second S tier pick is Heimerdinger support. It sounds weird, but it has all of the tools a support could ever need. A crazy level 1 strategy to get some extra gold, great lane control with turrets, so if enemies gank you, you can turn it around. He has great CC with his E, and is especially great at solo invading the enemy jungle. Even early on, somehow this champion can one-shot people as a support. Then in teamfights he brings loads of damage and zone control with a big turret that enemies have to play around. The counterplay for Heimerdinger support is so complicated, and enemies will never have played against it before. In the number 3 spot, we have another mind game champion, Neeko support, with high poke damage in lane, CC that goes through minions, and a huge ult that can win teamfights by itself. This pick is the best AP teamfighting support. Neeko should definitely be much more popular than Brand, Lux or Morgana, especially with the way she can become another champion and bait people in. Dark Harvest gives her a crazy amount of damage, but now she can even take Glacial Augment for even more disruption. In the number 2 spot, I almost put the champion as number 1, it was very close. It's a champion that fits solo queue so well. Talia support. Her passive gives movement speed, so she's a great roaming support. She still has her really high damage combo, and a great ult to set up picks. Everfrost is a great tool to set up her W into a huge burst of damage. I'm not sure why a support is allowed to do this much. She pretty much pentakills this fight by herself. As support Talia, you get so much more space to play with. You have more threats on your team, so it's less likely that you're the one who gets dived. It's so high up on the list because she can visit every lane, get a kill by herself, and just snowball the game out of control. I have saved one special pick for its own tier. This is a champion I tested a ton on stream and watched climb all the way to Challenger. In my opinion, it is the best off-meta pick we have at the moment. Nunu mid. This pick is so good that a guy was able to climb all the way to Challenger taking Ghost Cleanse just because he wanted to prove that it works. The reason this is number 1 is that Nunu mid is incredibly fun to play. He's super fast and does a ton of damage, but just because he's fun doesn't mean he's bad. Nunu mid is better than any other mage mid mid, at winning solo queue games. His laning is so good it's stupid, with a special snowball strategy that means he never actually has to take damage or interact with the enemy mid. He just pushes the wave and leaves. Nunu mid is so hard to beat because he doesn't actually fight you, he's constantly leaving lane to go gank somewhere, but you never know if he's actually ganking or just baiting you. If you assume he's roaming, you might just die, but he can roam as early as level 3, he's super fast, snowballing in with a huge AoE CC, getting a kill and returning mid, once again with another snowball to clear the wave. Another bonus is that he can build Everfrost, giving you a guaranteed full channel ultimate when you do Everfrost into your E into ult. This strategy is truly mind-blowing to watch and completely breaks the usual mid lane meta. Thanks so much to Alienware and Nvidia for sponsoring this video. The link to their special 360Hz monitor is in the description. If you like this tier list content, let me know and maybe we can do more. This video theoretically took about 1 year to make, so it might take a little while before the next one. Thanks so much for watching.